Give me Chris on it.
Yes.
Are we ready?
State like a soap opera. State it.
Well, welcome to our budget hearing, and we're going to start off with, well, what's the date today? It's July 3rd, 2023, and we'll start out with audit and finance.
Okay, well, I am actually going to start off with kind of a county-wide overview of the budget requests and the capital improvement plan requests, because the capital improvement plan, as you know, kind of works into the budget process also. The first slide I have here is just a summary of all the budget requests. It shows that the final budget for 2022, the final budget for 23, and then the budget requests for 24. This is laid out with just the totals for each of the categories. These are the categories that we use when we do our monthly financial update. So you can see the total of all the requests total $142,892,439. That would be a 12% increase over 2023, and the amount of increase, the dollar amount of the increase, would be $15,438,200. Let me say that again: $15,438,225. These are just the requests, as you know, but to make sure the public knows, this is just the starting point for the budget. This is in no way saying this is the ending budget. These are just the requests that have been made from all the departments. I thought I'd go a little through the process of estimating a mill levy, and this worksheet kind of shows that right below the total budget line, you'll see non-levy projected revenue. That is revenue that comes into the general fund from any source other than tax levy. So that's fees, whether it be the Parks and Rec fees, the register of deed mortgage fees, any fees that come in. That also includes our investment income. As you can see, let me see if I can kind of get this to there. If you see that $34,899,000 number there, that is what I'm projecting out for 2024's projected non-levy revenue. That, as you can see, is increasing about 5.8 million, and that's mostly just from investment income. At the time we had to budget and project out the 2023 investment income, interest rates were still very low. We've talked all year as we've looked at the financial information, how that has increased. So that has really helped increase that non-levy revenue. So of course we take the budget, we subtract out that non-levy revenue, because of course we don't need to levy that, that's additional revenue. We have to add back the neighborhood revitalization rebates. That is a city program where they rebate property taxes to revitalize certain areas of the city. Then we have to add in what we expect to be tax delinquencies. I am recommending that we use 2% for that for 2024. I used 1.5% for 2023, and as we have seen throughout this year, that's been a little low this year. So based on this year's experience, I'm estimating that at 2%. So then after all of those adjustments, we come down to what would be the levied amount. And this would be the levied amount if all of these requests were approved. Then the next, we look at the assessed value. Now, this is the assessed value, not the appraised value. The assessed value takes the appraised value and applies those assessed rates. Now, residential is 11.5%, commercial is 25%, ag land is 30%. All of those are applied to the appraised values to come up with this assessed value. This assessed value is an estimate. This is the estimate as of right now. The actual final number will not come in till November. I've also added a line here that shows the increase in the assessed valuation from the prior year. And you can see for this year, the assessed value increased by 9.35%. So if all of these budget requests were approved, the estimated mill levy for 2024 would be 50.319, which would be an increase of 0.458 from the prior year.
Does Steve think this assessed value is going to keep going up for the rest of the year, or is that just, who knows?
No, he thinks it is leveling off, and I think that's kind of what we've seen probably nationwide. It's leveling off.
I'm surprised it went up as much as it did this year, but.
Right, so I
there it
don't
is.
think we will, from what I'm hearing, I don't think we will continue to see those kind of increases in the future. I think it will, I think there'll still be some increase, but I think it will be leveling off. It won't be 9%. My estimation, or my guess, would be that this is probably the last year we will see that high of an increase. Another item that comes up when we're talking about the budget is the general fund reserve balance. This just shows the years from 2011 through 2022. And if you look at the red or the orange line, that is our reserve goal. Our goal is 25% of our budget. That sounds like a lot until you think about the fact that that is only 3 months' worth of expenses. So we have set that goal of having reserves for that amount. You can see how in 11, 12, 13, we were really way below that. The commission worked very hard to bring that up. And then in 16, we actually had a surplus. Those excess funds were used and brought it back down to the goal for 18. 19 went up slightly, and then 20 went back up again. At that time, the commission committed excess reserves to future wage increases. And so that brought us back down to where we were right in line with it. And at the end of 22, we were again right in line with our goal. One of the things we have to remember is as our budget amount, total budget goes up, so does this goal go up. So our reserve balance needs to go up accordingly. Before I get into the capital improvement plan, do you have any questions on the overall budget we're looking at?
Real quick, if you could go back to the slide that had the revenues, the non-levied
Yes.
revenues. That's a pretty substantial jump this year. I mean, is that an anomaly, or should we expect it to remain?
Well, the majority of it is investment income, because, we went from interest of 0, basically, to interest of 5%. So that is primarily from that. Now, who knows what interest rates will do? That's something we'll have to look at. Fees, the rest of the fees generally go up slightly, from year to year, they might go up slightly. You can see here from between 22 and 23, they went up a little bit, but, really not any more than, less than 10%.
Okay,
So,
so that non-levied revenue, are there different rules for that money than there is for property tax dollars and
No.
sales tax revenues?
not this, because this goes into the general fund. So this is just general fund revenue. So there's not any different. Now, there's other revenues that the county receives that go into other funds.
Okay.
Those are a lot of times restricted for their use. These are just revenues that go into the general fund.
I wondered if there was any kind of a correlation between that income and our reserves, but it doesn't seem like there is, really, so.
No, other than if you have a good jump, it will help you build reserves, but,
Okay.
But this, I think, like I say, 2025, who knows what the economy is going to look like and what the investment income may look like for 2025. This, I'm estimating it at investment income at 4.25%, trying to be a little bit on the conservative side, just not knowing, what could happen in the middle of '24, So, if interest rates stay at about that amount, then this might be pretty stable. But at this point in time, it seems like over the last few years, our economy has just been volatile enough that it's hard to really know.
Well, and just on the off chance that somebody may be watching this,
Yeah.
which is unlikely, but that's all just based on interest rates, there's no market exposure to any of this. We're not gonna
Oh, no.
lose a bunch of money if,
No. We are
Google
not
goes
in
south or
any
something like-
derivatives or,
Right. Okay.
no, this is.
I knew that, but I just wanted
Yes.
to say it out loud,
Yeah.
so
Oh, yes,
thank you.
no, nothing like that. Well, in fact, Kansas statute defines what we can invest money in. And
Okay.
those are very conservative investments that we're even allowed to invest our money in.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Betty, as a note, when I spoke with Mr. Baumann last week, I think he was looking at about a 5 to 7% increase in valuations, again, based on preliminary information. Obviously, a lot can change between now and when those assessments are complete, but we still may be looking at another 5% increase, which I found to be surprising, but again, looking at the market. In looking at our our debt service, I think it is important to note how much that's decreasing.
Yes.
And
Yeah, that's the only area, the only category that went down. It went down 1.5 million. I do have a slide later on that I'll go into that and show how much debt has been, paid off and is falling off, so to speak, and in future years also.
the last question that I had before we go on is if we can go back to our reserve fund. Where we have a bit of a upward trend on how much we need, and that's to correlate to the increase in our budget overall?
Yes. Yes, because it's based on a percentage of our budget. So as our budget increases, then those reserves increase.
What
Because
is
there,
that?
again, if it's 3 months of expenses, your expenses are going to be more. Yes.
What is that percentage?
25%,
25%.
which amounts to 3 months' worth of expenses,
And
basically.
is that still an accurate, healthy amount? Is that too little,
Yes,
too much?
I feel like that is, yes. What we've set is that our minimum that we'd like is 20%, and our goal is 25%. So I think 25% or 3 months' worth of expenses, I think is a reasonable amount. That is a healthy amount. The bond rating services see that as a healthy level.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Well, we'll go on to the capital improvement plan and the request for that. I want to remind you that the capital improvement plan are requests for capital projects for all funds. This is not just the general fund, this is all funds, which would include all of the public works funds, the parks and rec funds, all of those. We look out for 5 years on this, so we kind of have an idea of what we're looking at for the next 5 years. We generally only approve the next coming year, so we would only approve 2024, but we look out and have a plan for the next 5 years. The reason we do that is because, priorities can change. They can change out of necessity. Prices can change. New emergencies can come up. So that's why we only approve the next year, but we have a plan for the whole 5 years. So as you can see, our total requests for CIP for the 5 years is $122,330,480. This is how it is by year. You can see how 2026 really spikes up and then it comes back down in 27 and 28. This pie chart just shows those same dollars, but in a pie chart, kind of showing what departments are requesting that. You can see Public Works is the highest percentage at 31, which is what you would expect with their road and bridge projects that are high dollar items. The next one is Parks and Rec with 22 million, then Department of Corrections. The Sheriff's Office is at 9%. Community Corrections is at 8%. That's one project they're asking for. Then we have Solid Waste, then Emergency Management, and then the Election Office. There are a lot of other small ones. You can see all these little slivers here in the pie chart. I didn't label all of those just because the chart looked too busy. But I thought these main ones were the ones that would be of the primary interest. Okay. Within the capital improvement plan, within it is the capital outlay fund. The capital outlay fund is funded by the general fund, and it's generally for projects, it's for projects that are not funded by other funds, and also generally they're for general fund departments. You can see that the requests for capital outlay for the 5 years, and we do the same thing on the capital outlay fund. We plan for 5 years. We generally just approve that next year, so 2024. The total requests are $23,364,269. Here is how they're spread out over the 5 years. And you can see that 24, 25, and 26 are significantly above what we generally budget for capital outlay. This next chart shows each department and their requests over the 5 years. And then this chart is just for 2024 and the requests for the different departments for just the 2024 year. So you can see that it's going to, the requests are much higher. You know, the requests are $3,700,000. We generally, have done about $2 to $2.5 million for the capital outlay. Okay, that will be kind of the end of my overview for the county-wide. I now will go into the actual more the departmental requests for general expenses, debt service, and audit finance. So do you have anything else on this before I go on?
I do have a question. On your capital improvement plan request by year, in 26, it takes a real spike.
Yes.
Is there a couple projects that's driving that, or is that just overall?
Is that the?
Sheriff radio replacements is a big one.
Are you talking about for capital outlay fund or for all of the requests?
It's capital
Capital improvement.
There
So
are 2 large projects totaling $30 million.
Yes, that's the community corrections
Yes, and DOC.
and DOC, yeah.
Okay.
There's also
Is there something else?
Button Road to Rochester Road.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a
Well,
biggie.
I guess that's,
And equipment refresh at the elections department, I guess, is also in that year.
Okay.
yeah, Parks and
Kinda
Rec,
getting
service shop.
Loaded
is on
up
there.
that year.
Yeah.
It's just wish list.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, we'll go on to general expenses then. General expenses are just those expenses that, as you know, that are general they're more county-wide expenses. We have in there the county-wide property taxes, the county-wide utilities for the courthouse, the North Annex, those buildings. We also have contingency, and then what we transfer the capital outlay to the capital outlay fund, and then a couple others that I'll go into. In this, you can see that I am asking for $1 million increase in this, and I'll go through why. The first category is the property tax increase. You know, we all know that our property tax doubled last year. So this increase will will cover that. Just so you know, what I have asked all the departments to calculate in their budgets would be to use their 2023 insurance plus 20%. Now, I don't know if 20% is enough or if it's too high. That is just a guess on my part. But my hope is that if it is higher than that, say it goes to 25%, that most of the departments that have insurance are larger departments, and hopefully they would be able to absorb that increase if it's over 20%. That was my best guess at the time of how much of an increase to use. So through all the departments, that is the increase we have used for budget purposes, just so you know. MSA supplies and refunds, you can see are, you know, refunds, I just used an average of prior years. Contingency, I'm asking for that to remain the same at $1 million. I think that has been pretty sufficient for our needs in the past years. The capital outlay, in 2022, it was $721,000 because we used reserves to fill in the rest of that. In 2023, it was $2,097,000. I'm asking for $2,500,000 for that. That would bring it back to the amount that it was in 2021, and you can see how many requests we have. And as we know, that prices have gone up for all capital projects. The next one, the roof and parking lot fund, I'm asking for that transfer of $500,000. That Jennifer and I talked through, and we were not really sure if it was the Commission's intent for that to continue to go through the capital outlay fund, or if it was a separate one. It really, in some ways, doesn't make a lot of difference. It's coming out of the general fund regardless, whether you run it through the capital outlay fund or not. But we had set, at least to start off, for the first few years, we had set that at $500,000. So that is added to this. And then I've added a new one down here called risk management. We talked about how our property insurance had increased. Not only did the premiums increase, but our deductible increased. That is a trend that we are seeing. Not only our county is seeing, all counties and all governmental, especially municipalities, are seeing. So what I'm suggesting is that we set aside and we create a new fund called a risk management fund. I don't know that it has to be a new one. I think we already have one set up. But that we transfer money into that, so if we need money for claims, that we have money to meet those deductible needs, so that we also can start building up this fund, that hopefully in some point in time, then we can afford to increase those deductibles and keep our premiums down to a more manageable level. So I don't know if 250 is the right amount. This is the amount I'm suggesting. It certainly, it certainly could be more if you would feel comfortable putting more into it. This is just a starting point that I put on here to start with.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Betty, given that we are right at the 25% for our general reserves, and looking at, again, the totality of the playing field, could we take that $250,000 out of the general reserves and apply it to risk management? Because again, it's being held rather than taking new money and putting into risk management.
Yes, we could.
I mean, because our general reserves are generally just sitting there just in case.
Yeah.
And risk management is just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And so the two, I mean, that way we're not drawing new money into it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we certainly could. And I'd have to get back with you on exactly the amount that we had that was excess over the 25,000. or 25%.
And again, as a way
we
to just
could.
try and to start the funding of risk.
And what we would do is we would go ahead and budget this amount. We would just budget it out of reserves.
And again, that's just a thought of a way, rather than
Yeah,
drawing
that
more
would
money
be
to it.
possible.
Is there a ceiling to that, or a level that you'd like to maintain, or, you know, do you want it up to
To-
$1 million or?
To what? Oh, to this fund?
Yes.
You know, I really don't know yet.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I think it's something we want to start building up. And I think a lot of it will depend on what premiums do, what deductibles do in the future. But I think the more we can get ahead of it, the better off we'll be. I don't have a set number that you know, that is a goal that we would want to get to. I would see this as something we would fund every year, because we are going to have higher deductibles. And that alone, you know, unless you want those high deductibles to come out of your contingency, then we'd have to increase the contingency. So I really, I think this is something we would need to fund each year, just to stay on top of those higher deductibles. Any other questions? Okay, and the general expense does have a CIP request. These are for the small item CIPs that we generally set $100,000 aside each year for small items. To qualify for a CIP request, it has to be $50,000. Well, there's a lot of small departments that might have a project that is under $50,000, but their budget really wouldn't allow that. Say they need something that's $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. Their budget really can't allow them to pay that out of there, but it's not a CIP eligible request. So we set aside this $100,000 for those. The departments come back to us with those requests towards the end of '23 for '24's small items. I think at this point, the $100,000 has been sufficient in the prior years, so I'm just keeping that at $100,000 for right now. The next category is debt service. These are actual numbers of what our debt service will be. It will be $7,477,000. And this is the chart that I told you about that shows how the debt will decrease. This is our current debt that we currently have. This shows that it went down, will go down $1.5 million in '24. It'll stay about the same in '25, go down $200,000 in '26, then in '27 it goes down another million, '28 another $1.5 million, and then pretty steady in '29. I might mention to you while we're looking at this chart that the CIP requests, you know, part of the requests that we have in the capital improvement plan are items that would need to be financed, you know, by debt. And those requests are for '24, $3.5 million, for '25, $9.3 million, and for '26, $34.75 million. There again, in that '26, we're talking about those two big projects that total $30 million. Okay, and our last one is just our audit finance budget. As you can see, really there's not much change on my request other than salary increases or pay increases on the MSA 1. That is most of it. On the services line, it's gone up. It's gone up some, about $1,800, because we have our CIP software that is on our website. We have the hotline that we have, and then the TRS software, which is for our financial reporting. All of those, this is just accounting for increases in those software packages. So my total request is $658,000. I don't know, I'm shocked. I don't know how I got it to where it was an even number. I probably couldn't do that again, but that's what it came out to be. So That is my budget. I do not have any CIP requests. And do you have any questions on that?
Supplies stays flat.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, everything is pretty flat except for, wage increases and then also for the software increases, yeah. So any other questions on anything that I presented?
I'm fine.
So the personnel expenses that you had on there, those are, didn't you fill an open vacancy this
We
year?
did. We are
Isn't that kind
full.
of what happened there? So, okay.
Yes, we are fully staffed.
It wasn't that
Yes.
everybody got a big raise, although I'm
No.
sure they did get some raises, but.
Well, it was just the normal approved raises.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but we are now fully staffed.
Okay,
So,
great.
yes, so happy to be able to say that. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you very much.
Those would come out of our CIP and not a separate CIP for the Improvement Authority?
Well,
themselves
remember
are-
on the capital improvement plan, you have all those different funds, and we go through them all individually. We have the public works funds, the solid waste
Yeah.
funds, so it'll be a separate fund that will be considered. It will not be part of the capital outlay.
Okay.
Have they received any funds yet? from the
Not
state?
yet, no.
Okay.
No,
So they're close.
yes.
Should be coming in this.
July
Should be-
1st, right? It's
Should be
July-
coming in any day now.
I
Or
mean-
maybe they might have actually
They might have
received
gotten it over the
at the end
weekend.
of June.
Oh, I thought
They might have gotten
it
it
might
at the
just
end
be
of
a good
June.
indicator of what's
Yes.
going to be.
Yeah,
Because I think the state's budget goes into effect July 1st, so, I mean, technically, that's
Yeah.
when they should get
Yeah.
that first payment, so. Cool. Thanks.
well, gee, I timed that just right.
Yep. All right. Ready for the sheriff's department? Okay, it's 9:30 and we're going to do the sheriff's office next. So, Sheriff Hill, it's all yours.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Hill, Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. We have a slide presentation that we'll go through here. This is just a slide representing our proactive encounters through the county. We've increased that and our arrests have gone up. We believe that to be a significant reason that our crime stats are trending downward for the last several years. So we monitor the specific categories, but this is a positive trend for the county. Typically, these are the three highest crime stats we have in the county. As you can see, we've had a slight uptick in the burglary situation here that we're monitoring, but again, overall, the crime trend is it's trending downward, which is extremely significant considering a lot of the crime trends across the United States. This is just our pie chart budget. We've tried to keep this where it has been. A significant portion of that is just the salary portion. The 10% operational budget, 7% of that is just contract obligations, keeping the lights on, the bills that we have to pay. So we've kept our operational budget down to that 3%. And here's a total breakdown of where those monies have been going. and are going. So as you can see, a large percentage of that is just the fuel, the contracts, the ammo, insurance, typical things that we need to keep the agency running. And we've kept our expenditure down to under the inflation rate. Steve pulled the numbers, it looks like 2.32% of our overall budget. So CIP requests. Again, you guys know our county's 556 square miles. Our fleet drives about 1.8 million miles per year. We're looking at trying to add 7 new vehicles. We was able to purchase 3 extra vehicles in last year's cycle, and we appreciate that support, given the state of couldn't get vehicles. So, so that's what we're looking at. This is a significant slide, this radio network backhaul. I suspect you'll be hearing this again when emergency management gets here. We've had 3 different fiber interruptions, and you know, it was my understanding from years ago when they went to that fiber, it was going to be more secure, but there are several places that fiber comes up above ground. We had a break with a vehicle accident, a storm incident. They was able to track and fix that fiber, but when that fiber goes down, this backhaul system is the system that is making the entire radio network through this county work. It's this microwave system. It's getting close to the end of lifespan for some of the components on that. That's going to need to be up fresh, because if this goes down as well, there won't be any comms anywhere in Shawnee County for anybody. So that would affect fire, emergency management, everybody that's on that comm system. So we've been working very diligently with county and city IT. One of the issues they had, I guess city had changed their IT department, and they didn't even have a map of where their IT ran. So where that cable ran. So our county personnel did an extremely good job working with their new personnel and running that fiber down. So that was a little problematic. As you don't know, our fiber county runs into that city fiber. So we're monitoring that. This is Crime Center. We hope to have that federal grant that would help us with logistics with the cameras and the LPRs of this. In my opinion, I've been a cop here 30 years, this will be the most significant crime fighting tool that I've seen as a police officer. We have visited some centers that are up and running. We have some success stories already with the small demo model that they have been running. We had an incident in the county, carjacking. We was able to put that tag into an LPR reader, and it popped off on some city cameras and LPRs, and we was able to go to an area and find that vehicle and catch those people, which is just a significant tool. And also the school safety aspect of this, we're having a lot of the schools inquire. We've demoed this, and it's going to allow all the schools in Shawnee County to give us access to their camera system. So if they have an incident, by merely pushing a button, those cameras will come up online in that dispatch center, so you can see what's going on. If you have an active shooter, it'll also help us in these swatting instances when they're trying to have police have a horrible encounter with civilians, so you'll be able to see what's happening there. So, so we're happy that this thing's coming up and coming online. Again, just trying to keep our 911 center up and fully functional. A lot of consoles that are there, we've been repairing for several years. They've reached their lifespan to the point of when something breaks, they will no longer even make parts for that. So we're having difficulties. We're kind of having to replace it as it goes. So it's the repair portion of that is is not feasible at this time, so we're looking at just replacing some of that. Our drones have been a very active tool for us, very efficient in the county when we have the lost kids or the fugitives out in the rural areas. We've been able to actually utilize there. One of the issues that we're going to have moving forward, frankly, is the new rules that are coming out. A lot of the drones have parts from China on them that they are going to phase out. So having to keep our drones up to capacity and within the regulations that they're pushing out for this is that monies. So that's our budget presentation, and we'll stand for any questions here.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Your budget indicates that you want to add 2 new communications specialists, 1 positions, and 3 new patrol positions. Can you talk to us a little bit about your current staffing, your what you would determine to be fully staffed, and what we're doing here with these changes?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's going on that's positive in the communications system is our overtime, especially our forced overtime, has dropped significantly. I think it went from something like 800 hours down to 100 hours overtime. So we are staffed up to, that is helping us, but they still have some deficiencies that they're trying to fill within that communication center. Frankly, one of the problems they have is they're outgrowing the area that they have there for the dispatchers to set, because we also house the AMR dispatching center within ours. So we have allocated an extra room from TPD that we have outfitted that we're turning into a call center and trying to free up some consoles on the floor. Shane, do you want to talk about personnel? We're up to 113 for the deputies. We have a large recruiting class that we're coming in, so we're getting applicants in. Talk about civilian.
Yeah, Under Sheriff Hubler, Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. We have constantly been driving to try and get our numbers up, get our staffing up to where it needs to be. One of the things that does correlate with the communications center is our records office. It had not been 24 hours. We put it back to being 24 hours to take some of that load off of the dispatch center, having to confirm warrants, PFAs, those types of things. And in doing that, trying to find the people to work those shifts. So our civilian positions are down. I think the commissioners, I think you did a great job on trying to increase that pay to get a better group of candidates. And we're seeing a little bit of uptick in applications, but we're still about 7 positions down in our quote-unquote clerical staff. So we're still striving there. We're around 113 on our sworn staff. We'd like to be closer to the 117, but everybody's having a hard time getting good quality law enforcement. We don't have as much trouble as other places. Again, I think thanks to the efforts of the commission, getting the wages where they need to be. And then the dispatch center, it's just trying to continue to get, and the dispatch center is very young. So trying to get people on long enough that they can be qualified to become supervisors and just building that up. And those are the struggles and some of the realities of where we're at on our staffing right now.
To go along with the question about the staffing, on the budget presentation, there is under a line, it's 10 SHADM. It says new hire expenses, and we're going from 15,290 to 26,460. So what are some of our expenses in going to new hires?
We have several expenses that go along with the new hires. Background checks, psychological testing. We have to buy more equipment for them, new equipment for those officers when they come in. And as we hire more people, then those expenses will subsequently go up.
So we're anticipating that from these 5 new positions, we're going to have an increase of $10,000 because you were going to have new hires. You'll always have somebody that leaves and somebody that comes in, and that's where you had your budgeted of 15,000, but this additional 10,000 is relating to those 5 new people?
It's in relation to those and more anticipated losses. We haven't realized the losses that we thought we were going to have over the years as we become more aged in the law enforcement end. We anticipate, again, that those are going to hit, and a lot of those we truly do anticipate will start hitting in 2024.
Okay. Priority dispatch, there's quite a bit budgeted under that for the priority dispatch. How are we doing with that implementation? And I know you touched on that a little bit, but.
Priority dispatch has been a struggle for us since we implemented it. A piece of that is the youthfulness of the hires that we have and getting them implemented. As we get new communications specialists in, getting them trained up, and also being able, a lot of the struggle has been with some of the dispatchers that have been here for a long time, and that's not the way they do business, but we are slowly getting it back implemented.
Okay, because I mean, there's a budgeted increase of about $30,000 just for that priority dispatch. And that's under 10 SHCOM.
That's for the, I believe, that is for the continuing maintenance of that. It's a software product. When we made the initial purchase, a piece of that was covered, but now we're getting into where we've had it, and it's the maintenance of that software.
The replenishing of ammunition, it looks like that's taken quite a jump. Is that something you have that lasts you several years, or is that a?
Yes, what we've had an issue with, I don't know if you're aware, but a few years ago, we had a significant ammo shortage. You just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
They depleted a lot of our ammunition stock that they use for training. And this was trying to build that back up and have it in anticipation of that again. Also, the added deputy positions, one would be for the sole purposes of our crime center, but we've also looked at security measures, honestly, in this building from the courthouse moving over, thinking that it would probably take a couple of deputies to secure this, and then have some serious conversations about where you'd come in out here. There's some challenges in setting that up, but personnel-wise, that's what we think we would need here.
So I'd like to go back to the priority dispatch. So if I remember, that was maybe 21 or 22 that we put that in, and it was the fire department, TPD, and you, partnership between everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just not working out? I mean, it's been a little while. I mean, and it sounds like there's a learning curve with it, but I mean, the whole purpose of it was to make things better. Is it just not doing that?
It's my understanding on the fire side, it is an asset and they're using it. It's the policing side where the call volumes are so high and the extremity of the calls. We had some dispatchers that had been here for several years. Change is hard. We got low staffing, so retraining people who have been doing this for 15, 20 years into a different system in which to do that. I still believe it's a good product. It's going to help with continuity, consistency in call. Jeremy Rabs, our director, he's not here now. He could if you got specific questions, I can find that out. I don't want to misstate something. I'll get you exactly what that is. But
I guess maybe a question for him, and is there something that the provider, the software company, could come in and we just tell them what we're having trouble with and see if they can come and help us?
It's my understanding it was an entire training department needed to be revamped to train everybody into this system. Again, I will most assuredly get you any answers you need.
Okay. The other question I had, You had on here on repairs or weed spraying at the tower site. Do you guys work with the weed department on that at all, or is that something you hire out, or?
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we work with the weed department for chemicals and also their ability to go spray anytime we possibly can.
Okay,
So as long as it works into their schedule, we absolutely work with all the county partners as much as we possibly can. Sometimes their workload may not direct, but I believe they're taking care of most of that for us.
okay.
This is just chemical costs.
And while we're on towers, the communications tower that you showed the picture of earlier in your slideshow, is that something that the city of Topeka is going to help with, or, because it's not just our agency that uses it, right? It's everybody.
Oh, it's everybody, yeah.
And so, I mean, it seems like KVI, Highway Patrol, everybody's using it, right?
Yes.
And are we expected to pay for everything, or just
I
a
would hope
portion
not,
of it?
but that's
Okay.
probably gonna be a conversation that, you gentlemen are gonna need to be involved in at some point. I mean, we run that dispatch center, but there's a lot of people utilizing that.
Yeah.
We are kind of footing the bill for different things, so.
Isn't that one of the items you guys are looking at paying for with federal grant money?
Yes. The hopefully on the backhaul, the rest of that is there are technically kind of two different systems. The state does have their own system. We utilize as much cross-utilization of equipment as we possibly can. But Shawnee County Emergency Communication, we have our own set of towers. We don't own all of the towers. We lease pieces of that. The backhaul that you'll hear more about, I believe, in the days and times to come, and hopefully the grant will take care of a big portion of that. But that's specific to Shawnee County Emergency Communications.
Okay, great, thank you.
I wanted to ask about that new system you have where officers can get like real-time information about, how is that working out? Is that, you feel like that's paying off dividends?
Yeah, I think it does. What has actually occurred here is the city of Topeka had a demo model of that they had up and running. They already had the LPRs and the camera system in place. We was utilizing that as well. They did not continue down that road. When we set this system up, we was able to bring all their cameras and LPRs online for us as well in the county. A lot of the reason I believe our crime has dropped in the county is our working relationship with the city police department. We share a lot of the same clientele. But those do come into play when we get, there's been several times that we've been able to track stolen cars immediately, get to locations that we've recovered them. The system will get better with more equipment that we set up. One of the big things that I'm honestly hoping to help with, police chases are the most volatile things that we deal with, liability-wise, safety-wise. There's been a few times there's had cars roll into those bank of cameras that you could back off from the chase area and then try to get out in front of them with stop sticks and other measures that would stop that. So safety aspect of monitoring, finding people after the fact. I don't know if you're aware, the KHP helicopter helped us out tremendously here just last week. They had chase went from Lawrence all the way through Douglas County into Shawnee County into the city of Topeka. Well, nobody was really chasing it. The helicopter just tracked it until it finally stopped. This system has capability of kind of doing that same thing. We are in talks with, there's some private donors that might be willing to foot the bill for cameras for the downtown area of the city of Topeka. So we're working closely with the city of Topeka to try to get this up and running, but I don't know if I answered your question, but.
Yeah, Sheriff, we have vandalism problems in certain areas of our parks. If we were to add security cameras, could that tie into that system?
Absolutely, it could.
Okay.
This actually has capability of, we're not making that really public till we get up and running, but people's Ring cameras if they wanted to come online and sign up and give us access, they could individually do that. So that our operator sitting in that center, if something goes down, every camera in that area will show, and they can pull it up and look to see if that's helpful. Because a lot of the crime, honestly, in the city is being solved with those Ring cameras. They're doing it after the fact, but it seems like everybody has those on their houses, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Question for you.
Sure.
When we were talking about the communication specialists, you're asking for 3 new positions, and, no, 2 new positions on that. But you're still showing CWA overtime of 400,000. With the hiring that you've been able to do, and that, is that budget item less than last year?
It's,
And,
there was another shortage or whatnot, but we've seen improvements.
okay, you've seen improvements, you have not reduced it, though. Another question that I had, I'm having a hard time matching your CIP slides that you went over with your CIP requests. And this is something that the commissioners will be asked to rate. So the first one you had, if you can go back to that slide.
no, hang on.
You had the backhaul switches and something, you had, it said approximately $1.3 million, I think.
I believe that was for maybe both of their backhaul switches. There's 2 different lines for backhaul switches.
Yeah, but they only totaled 500,000.
That's just like kind of like the first phase, the Band-Aid piece, just to get the backhaul microwave system replenished with new components. The 1.6 is what we're asking from the federal grant to do a full,
Okay.
the full whole. I think Jeremy Rapp said it was 3 phases maybe that would take care of that.
Okay. Yeah, here it says 1.3
Yeah.
million. You have on here, you have Motorola backhaul switches for 462,000, and then you have further down backhaul switches for 99,000. Are those both the same project?
It's the same project, it's a different phase of the project.
And then 99,000 is
Okay.
for fiber optics only
Okay.
construction.
The challenge that we're trying to meet as we move forward with this is the reality of the costs and whether or not we're going to be able to get a grant.
Okay.
Our confidence level is different on each one of the grants that we've applied for. On the grant that covers our in-car and body cams, our confidence level is 99.9%-ish. And there's always challenges with that. As we move into the other grants the other 2 grants that we've applied for, one of which is to deal with the backhaul, we're unsure of what our confidence level even is at this point due to the amount of money that is available. And we know that if we can at least get a hold of somehow the 400,000, that's the beginning of something that maybe the county could work to get us through in a phase to get us. Now, if we can get all of the $1.6 million, absolutely, then we can fix this problem and move on from it.
You mean 1.3? That one.
Yeah,
Hey,
1.3.
Can you go to the next slide?
I can try.
Okay, and then we have real-time crime center. Okay, you have here 911 backup center upgrades or dispatch console upgrades. There again, I'm not sure
That backup center is not this. This
Okay.
real-time crime center is something totally
So
separate.
what is
Would be
that?
cameras and LPRs, ma'am.
Well, the backup center is the one out.
Can you help me
The-
with that one?
I think you decided to list that as federal funding, that's the other grant piece that we're after. It's listed as intersection LPR.
Intersection cameras?
Original,
Okay, so that's the crime center, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to match these up, and
Yeah, I
I
think we
wasn't
adjusted-
having any luck.
I think we adjusted the slide after the fact.
Okay, okay.
Just
That was all the questions.
if I may, to answer some of the questions, because technology can sometimes be pretty good. The briefing from Priority Dispatch is going to be the 30th of August. They're coming back in to assist us in getting the police piece corrected even more. We have been working on it. We have seen improvements, not only with our personnel, but also with the software. And the 30th of August, they're going to come in, and hopefully we can get that tied up. And the Priority Dispatch law side, we should start seeing some great improvements then.
One other question. How are you doing personnel-wise? You got all the lanes filled right now? And
Well, we have applicants, which is better than a lot of law enforcement agencies, to be honest with you.
Okay.
We have a few in training right now. We're still getting, we're lucky in the fact that we're getting some people who are already certified law enforcement applying for us. So we've been able to turn some of those people around fairly quick. We're hoping to put another class of 4 to 5 that we're going to send to KLETC here pretty quickly. And they're running through the hiring process with multiple individuals right now, so.
do you have any major number of retirees coming up? Or?
Well, there's an unknown factor here in what Under Sheriff Hubler was talking about. We have multiple people who are eligible for retirement. This drop program might help us keep people longer, but again, that's going to be their choice whether they go into that or just go ahead and retire. So it's an unknown factor until we get the paperwork on our desk. We just know that we do have significant number of people who are eligible for retirement.
Commissioner Rippon, within your budget packet under the retirees, there are 50 identified people that are eligible for retirement.
Okay.
We hope they don't all leave.
Yeah, not the same day. Right.
And that retirement fund looks like it's underfunded by about $140,000, if I read that correctly.
Yeah.
Okay.
143,000.
All right. Any other questions? Ryan, Shane, thank you very much.
Wait, no, I'm sorry, it's overfunded.
Overfunded by $140,000.
Overfunded
Thank you.
Overfunded.
by
I like
that.
$143,000.
That's a better
Yes,
answer.
yes.
Yeah, we got enough.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, thanks.
I forgot to mention this when I was up there. We mentioned to, I'm gonna let Jennifer tell you.
All right. We're now ready for District Attorney. Mike?
Good
It's all
morning.
yours.
Thank you for your time today. Before I begin, I just want to take a moment and reflect on the quality of the folks that you have working for you. And I'm speaking specifically about the department heads and the staff. The level of competence and diligence that they bring to the job every day, the partnership that we all share. It's not easy always doing public service work, and it comes with unique challenges. But I think because of the investment you have made and the selections you have made, the people in our community are better served for it. And I just want to recognize that. So thank you. In particular, we're seeing this play out with the ongoing renovations over in the courthouse. You know, the window replacement's going on right now for us. Soon we'll get on to other phases of the project, but we have regular updates, we have regular meetings, and we have a very good working awareness of when those projects are going to impact our operations And we've been working with IT and with NELDA to make sure that that minimizes any disruption to our services that we provide. So again, thank you. Okay, so this is our mission statement. Every year I get up here and I talk about this. Obviously, you all know that we are here to enforce the law, state law, county law. That comes with unique challenges. I like to say that we are invited into controversy on a regular basis. Nobody ever walks in our door because everything is going well. So we deal with people who are going through difficult challenges, oftentimes traumatic events. We deal with people that are, frankly, broken or suffering on a daily basis. And it's our responsibility to serve them ethically and with compassion, and to pursue justice on their behalf and on behalf of the community as a whole. Some ethical guidelines that guide our actions day to day. I think there's a popular misconception that we exist only in a punitive sense, that we're here to punish everybody, and if we show up, it's a bad thing. And the way this the way this plays out for me is when I'm introduced to someone who does not know me, and they say, "And he's our DA," this is the response I get: "Oh." Like, oh, take a step back. But really, we're here to help our neighbors, our friends, to live their lives as best they can, to enjoy the freedoms that we should all appreciate. And as we're here on the eve of our Independence Day, I think for me that's a nice way to frame our function. Because without public safety, without the steps that we take every day to make sure that children and our families are safe in this community, it's very difficult to enjoy those liberties that we are entitled to. An overview again of the structure of the office. We have most of our resources dedicated to the adult felony division, just because that is where the most of the work needs to occur. And as you recall, we added a 7th division there when the court decided to expand and add a 7th adult felony division. We do a lot of traffic cases, a lot of misdemeanor cases, juvenile offender cases as well are on the rise. And we'll talk about child need of care cases that are going up again this year. In charging, we've folded in an appellate division. If you recall, last year we talked about ending our longstanding agreement with the Attorney General's office as they were transitioning into a new administration. So now we have 2 attorney in staff that handle appeals for us, as well as a member of support staff. And obviously I've got my support team on the administrative side. So in child need of care cases, I'd love to stand up here and tell you that there are fewer abused and neglected children in our community. Unfortunately, that is not the case. And of course, I can't tell you, are those numbers going up because we have more of them, or are those numbers going up because more people are reporting, right? I never have the answer to that. But on our end, we're seeing an increase of what we call ex parte cases, where we have to go in an emergency situation and remove the children from the home because they're in danger. We're also participating in a pretty cool project with KU right now, trying to deliver resources and guidance to parents who are not in those situations, right? Because not every child need of care case that hits our door is one of those where we think the child is going to be in danger in the long term. Maybe some additional resources and education are needed. Care and treatment cases continue as per usual, but we are working with our partners to develop some long-term solutions to an ongoing issue that we've had with competency, and developing competency, establishing that in a criminal case. As a refresher, if you are not aware of the charges, you don't understand the charges, and you cannot assist in your own defense, you are not legally competent to face those charges. And so what happens is We deal with folks sometimes who are struggling with a mental illness, and they come into our system and they have not been medicated, maybe not even diagnosed, and they're not really tracking what's going on. And so, we have a duty to safeguard their constitutional rights, same as anybody else. And what that process requires is for them to be evaluated here locally, and that's the process we've been working on, as opposed to putting them on a waiting list, which can take 6 months or more for them to get into Larned, to find out, oh yes, they are competent, and now you send them back and the case can proceed. I'm sorry, I'm going to cover a lot of ground today. If you have any questions at any time, feel free to cut me off. I'm happy to take them. So one of the areas of focus for the office over the last couple of years has been investing in the health and well-being of our own people. And the way I like to think of it is, when you go on the plane and they give you the briefing, if you need to get out of the plane, there's the cushions that'll float, even if you're flying over the Midwest and there's no water, right? They give you that information. But they also tell you if the oxygen masks drop down, you have to put yours on first, even before you put one on for your kid, right? And it kind of, for me, it's counterintuitive, why would you want to take care of yourself first? But the reality is, if you don't do that, you can't help anybody. And as I said at the beginning, we deal with a lot of suffering, a lot of brokenness, and there's a lot of research in the area of vicarious or secondary trauma. That does have an impact. It can increase burnout rates. And so that's something that I have invested a lot of time in over the last couple of years. And we've got some pretty cool initiatives going on internally to support our people. Okay, I'm going to talk briefly about some of the jury trials that have occurred, some of the notable jury trials that have occurred over the last 12 months. Just as a reminder of what we do and why we do what we do. Jeffrey Exxon is a father who essentially starved his 2-year-old daughter to death, is what happened. He actually called into the 911 dispatch center and said, well, my daughter's dead and I think she starved herself. And the dispatcher said, well, how old is she? And he said, well, she's 2. And the dispatcher responded, she starved herself? And that's how our case began. He was convicted of felony murder at jury trial. Sentencing is still pending, but felony murder carries with it a presumptive life sentence. John Ewing, this was a particularly brutal domestic violence homicide that was actually captured on video. The offender, Mr. Ewing, used an axe to commit this crime. And, like I said, something like that is not easy to watch. Something like that is not easy to handle. None of these cases are. But this is what we do, and we are proud to do it on behalf of our community. Daisha Butler was a case, one of these I put into a category of senseless killings where there is some sort of disagreement, not really fully formed, but one team doesn't like the other team. People are literally standing in the street talking at each other, and someone decides to pull out a gun and fire a shot and killed somebody, just like that. So a waste of a life, a senseless killing. Again, felony murder carries a presumptive sentence of life in prison. And then Claude Curse, which is one of our cold case homicides that our cold case investigator worked on with the homicide team over at TPD. This was a situation that was unsolved for a period of time, but we put some additional resources into it and were able to hold Mr. Curse accountable for his actions. Sex offenses. Barry Johnson forcibly raped a 13-year-old girl who was actually unknown to him, which is pretty rare. Most of the time when offenses like this occur, or any kind of violent crime, it's between parties who are known to each other. So this falls in that small I would say 3% category of cases where it's really is an unknown, a stranger. Jessica's Law, for those who are not familiar, refers to a category of offenses within Kansas law, and other states have comparable statutes that spell out a specific penalty for sexual offenses committed against a minor under the age of 14. And so when you see Jessica's Law, that's what that means. And Jessica's Law, like felony murder, carries a presumptive sentence of life in prison. David Marks Jr., this one is particularly distressing because we had, it was a 7-year-old girl who was the victim, and I'm going to use this opportunity to remind anybody who's watching this, if in fact there are people watching this, that oftentimes sexual predators will identify a single mother, not because of anything the single mother does or has other than a child who is actually the target. And it's difficult sometimes for folks to recognize this and to wrap their heads around it, but that's how predators work. They want to identify someone who they perceive as vulnerable. They want to get into a situation where they have access to them one-on-one, and in order to do that, they have to insert themselves into that child's circle. Alexander Brazel and Efrain Garcia Castillo, both convicted of rape, both looking at life in prison. And then Brandon Davis is the last one I want to talk about. He had 2 different victims, and he actually had a prior victim back in 2001, and this is really frustrating for me to even say, but in 2001, he committed an offense, a sexual offense against a minor female. He was convicted. He was looking at 12 years in prison, and when he went to sentencing, his attorney asked the court for a lesser sentence so he could go to treatment and maintain his familial relationships. And so his time was cut down to, I believe it was 12 months instead of 12 years, right? And so wouldn't you know it, Mr. Davis goes out and creates 2 more victims who have their lives irreparably changed for the worse. And so he is now serving 2 life sentences in prison for that. He will not be getting out again. He will not be hurting anyone else. Okay, moving on, just recapping what we've been working on aside from some of the casework. Obviously, you know about the new office space. We've been talking about that for a long time. We are grateful that we have that physical space. We can actually do everything we're supposed to do in the way that we need to. And just going through that process again of coordinating the renovations, making sure that we have no interruption on our services. Implementing the new case management system was also a big project. That's something that needed to happen. We got that done, again, thanks to your support. It's been fantastic. The old system was, expiring. It was end of service time. And the new system is much more nimble and robust, and I think it's going to really add to our capabilities going forward. And then, of course, the 7th division that we already talked about. Some expenses that we might be looking at going into next year. I think we'll have some minor renovations throughout the new office space. I don't anticipate those will be substantial costs, but I do want to list them here. We do have a special fund set aside for renovations, so we are planning accordingly. We are, again, in an uptick of violent crime in this community. My first year as the DA, we set a record for homicides, and that was horrible. And we dealt with the fallout from that for a number of years. I don't know where we'll end up this year. I hope it'll stop. I always pray that it will. But again, the reasons that drive somebody to commit these types of offenses are complex and, for the most part, unpredictable. So I don't know where we'll end up. But we are seeing an increase in homicides and group homicides, 2, 3 guys at a time going and doing things. And so obviously that multiplies the amount of casework on the back end for us. We are still dealing with a backlog from COVID. At last check, and this would have been last week, we have approximately 1,200 cases that are still waiting to be filed. Part of that is COVID, part of it is we had a shortage of attorneys over the past year, and I'll talk more about that. But when that happens, we have to shift resources within the office because we don't have an option not to show up for our case, right? So if we have filed a case and it's being set in one of the divisions and it's going to trial or it's have a preliminary hearing or a motion hearing, we have to have somebody there working that case. And when our frontline prosecutors are leaving to take other jobs, that creates those vacancies and we have to move accordingly, and that ends up creating a backlog. And what I have seen, and I would say this is really true post-COVID, there's a shortage of attorneys. And it's not just Shawnee County. There's a shortage of attorneys, and this is something that my colleagues around the state are dealing with. This is something that private law firms are dealing with. Part of it, I think, goes to class size at the law schools. And part of it, frankly, is in the current, I would say the current environment, there's not a whole lot of law students coming out of school saying, I want to go be a prosecutor. Most states, it's a thankless job already, and if you tack on to it some of the, some of the sentiment that's being felt around the country and probably expressed internally within law schools, that's not really where they want to be. And so it is difficult to find qualified attorneys. It's difficult to retain them. And what I'm finding is as we get good people and we train them and they get experience, inevitably other people want what they have. So we continue to work on that. We are actually fairly close right now to having all our attorney positions full. If memory serves, I believe we have one vacancy presently on the attorney side. Okay, I need to pick up the pace. I apologize. Just talking about ongoing expenses that we anticipate over the next several years. At some point in time, I'll be up here, not this year, but at some point in time, I'll be up here asking for an additional attorney to handle our increase in child needed care cases. An overview of how we use the diversions. You are well aware. You see those come through here for approval. Training funds and how we use those. And then briefly, things we've been working on holistically, overarching office goals, including retaining our records as required by law. I would add in here that we have been also digitizing those records, which is something that's going to free up space and make sure that they are preserved in a safe manner. And I have not, Betty will correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not come before this body and asked for any funds for said project. One of my colleagues, who I will not name, asked and received $1.8 million to do this exact same thing. We're not doing it for free, but I'm not up here asking for money. We're making it work. Okay, and then just talking about, along with the new case management system, making sure that we are trending towards a more efficient and cost-effective model. In another life, before law school, I actually went into businesses and helped them do this. So the fact that we, in my office, are not yet there continues to, I find it irksome. We'll get there one day. And then this is probably the big thing, making sure that as we have vacancies, as people are gone on maternity leave or sick leave or what have you, that everybody is cross-trained and we are ready to go every single day to meet our statutory and ethical obligations. And with that, I will take any questions you have. Oh, sorry, I do have a note on capital improvement as well. So if I can touch on that briefly, the request is to, as outlined here, is to purchase new vehicles for our investigative unit. But after working with Betty and her team and working with the folks over at Enterprise, I am convinced that is a more cost-effective model is to lease them. So I have contacted Enterprise and asked them to provide me with quotes that we could then translate into a line item on the budget request, and then that would come off of CIP. And as soon as I have those numbers, I will make sure and share them.
What we can do on that is when he does have those numbers, we can update those two items, the, his budget and the CIP.
Okay.
We ought to make sure that you talk with Brent at Parks and Rec at some point too.
Right.
He seems to be really good at that, so.
Yes.
So he'll be removed from the CIP then, right?
Be removed from the CIP and additional funds would be added, additional request to his budget request.
Commissioner Cook, did you have a?
Yeah. District Attorney, can you talk to us a little bit, and maybe just how like things got classified, but the contractual services jumped almost double. Can you touch on that a little bit? I know that's probably a lot of different things that factor into that.
I'm sorry, under contractual services, I'm not showing a,
It's,
They doubled for '23. Between '21 and, the actual column
yeah,
is '22, the
Okay, right.
working is '23.
but just kind of what
Yeah.
but is that just reclassification of existing, services, or is it just new things?
No, between '22 and '23, it did double.
yeah, it did. Yeah,
Okay.
but from where we are now going forward, the request is flat.
So is that gonna cover the Lexus? Is that,
I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't recall what that increase was for last year.
I think it's a combination of our new document management system and our
Okay.
ongoing costs involving, we use Westlaw
Right.
in the office, but I think it's primarily the new document management system.
okay.
I'm gonna look up last year's and see if I
Yeah.
can.
I believe that that's correct, because I think in '22, that was covered by a cap outlay
Right.
request. So the first
It
year's
was.
software was covered, including maintenance, which then caused that low number in '22, which then with a higher, much higher number.
But is
in
that gonna
23.
continue then? Because,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the '23 budget, I pulled that up and it said increase in maintenance costs for Justware and Westlaw.
okay.
So,
So I was right. Thank you, Betty.
just to kind of go off of that, I know that there are certain softwares that lawyers use. Westlaw is one. I mean, do you, the counselor, the sheriff, the courts, do you guys all have your own contracts, or is this like one countywide contract that?
We have our own with Westlaw, and they charge you per user. So,
I know we did look into that in prior years and there was not any savings by
Okay.
bunching it together.
So all it does is save you the hassle of piecemealing it.
More than one bill, but
Okay,
yeah, but each department handles their own, and that way they're in a better position of really knowing who's using it.
Okay.
and we have removed people from our user list to make sure we actually drop down a price point. So and it's, every time an attorney leaves or takes another job, we have to remove them and add somebody on. So that number is going up and down.
The other questions I had were, in the past, we have funded cold case prosecution. Are you anticipating that to continue or to use that fund?
I am, and I will say that fund is currently depleted. At some point in time, probably towards the end of this year, I'll be back in front of you to give you an update on that. We do have significant ongoing cold case prosecutions, a double homicide and actually a triple homicide, both of which are cold cases. And those are time and resource intensive. The fund is exhausted currently, but I do believe that I have enough of a cushion in the budget this year because of the attorney vacancies I described earlier, that we'll be able to cover those expenses through the balance of this year.
Okay. In the last year, we did funding for a community outreach program. Are we starting to continue to do that? Is that something that you've seen benefit from?
Absolutely. In fact, I have some good news there. The SAFE program is what you're referencing. Recently applied for and received a grant in conjunction with the Boys and Girls Club, who's actually going to be who's actually going to administer the grant. But that will allow for additional staffing to support the work of the program. And so we're very excited about that. It looks like it's been implemented effectively in USD 501, and we're expanding to all the school districts in the county along with the funding of that grant. It's been really well received by the kids it's helping and by the families as well. So I'm very proud of it, and I anticipate coming up here with the project manager and giving you all a formal update on that very soon.
And then you touched on some of the larger scale felonies and murder prosecutions that your office has done. But what about the sex trafficking in that area? Is that an area that you're wanting to continue to focus in on for Shawnee County?
Well, I think we have to, Commissioner. It's happening, it's been happening, and I think thanks to the support of this commission, we do have a dedicated investigator, and he is a hub for area law enforcement, and he's been working with the KBI as well, and even federal authorities at times when these cases arise. Last check, I believe we had 6 or 7 cases that qualified as human trafficking. There are active prosecutions, and I think we're just starting to scratch the surface, honestly. Side note, I just saw a trailer for a really cool movie. It's called The Sound of Freedom, and it's being released in theaters, I think today, and it's a true story that relates to this issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Excuse me, if I could add something to what you were talking about, the cold cases. I believe the amount that they are showing under intermittent are for salaries that were covered by that cold case fund that has now been exhausted.
That's correct. Thank you, Betty.
You have a high-profile case that's going to be tried again in
Yes.
another county. How is that accounted for in here? I mean, I know that it's supposed to start this year, but could go into next year.
Yes, that case is difficult to predict in terms of additional costs. I do anticipate, based on the personnel I have assigned to that case, the conversations and the plan we have in place, that the additional costs, because of the prosecution in another county, will be minimal, probably related to transportation and lodging as needed. But I will definitely come back with an update on that, and I anticipate that will occur at the end of the year, and that's also when I may come back and ask you some more about cold case.
Okay, appreciate it.
Mike, are you seeing an increase in crime from homeless people? Is that,
I know there's a lot of conversation about that, Commissioner. The truth of the matter is the homeless population has always had a high rate of crime, but it's typically homeless on homeless, and then they just don't report. That's what we've seen. That's what people see nationwide. I do think that as the city goes through and evaluates their options for treating and dealing with the homeless population, there are some boundaries that probably should be put in place. I don't have the ability to make that happen. As you know, I have the ability to enforce the law. So when somebody breaks the law, I get to step in. But a lot of what I'm hearing on this homeless issue has to do with what we would categorize as, petty crime. Somebody stole my bike. Somebody, I've heard complaints about people going through trash cans on the curb. That is not a crime. In fact, law enforcement does that on a regular basis to collect, evidence and help build a case. So I'm not saying those concerns aren't warranted, but I don't think we have there's not an outbreak of violent crime from the homeless population committing crimes against, our housed citizenry, is what I would say. I don't know if that helps.
my other question is, our jails are full of people who have mental problems, and some of them are sitting there for a long time. Is there ways of expediting that situation to try to relieve a little pressure on our jail and to move people a little quicker on that?
Well, there is, and that's actually one of the things I was trying to touch on earlier when I talked about developing that in-house competency procedure. That is going to alleviate a lot of that pressure, and we're starting to see the benefits of that. But like anything else, anytime you implement a new program to address a long-standing need, it does take a little while for that, to kind of filter through. So I think we're making progress there. Also, from my perspective, I've had some encouraging conversations with the courts and my partners on the defense side about addressing some of these issues more holistically and treating people for their underlying behavioral problem, right? Apart from the cases I talked about, the very heavy stuff, most people that come through our doors are struggling with, a mental illness or a drug addiction or maybe both. And if we can use our process to kind of leverage treatment and guide them towards a path of rehabilitation so they don't come through our doors again, that really is the overarching goal. We want to promote that kind of reformation. We want them to become law-abiding citizens. So anything to that end that treats the issue more efficiently and has a longer lasting effect. And those are the conversations that we've been having lately.
Any other questions? No. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Okay, we'll
Well, good morning. I'm Stephen Eberts. I'm the Chief Judge of the Shawnee County District Court, the 3rd Judicial District here in Kansas. And I'm going to make some very brief introductory remarks and kind of highlight a couple of policy initiatives that are reflected in our budget. Then I'll turn it over to Lee Dawn Welch, and she'll take care of the details. So first, I want to say thank you for letting us be here today to address you. I also want to take a moment to back up a little bit and say, again, thank you for your commitment to the courthouse, for renovations and remodeling at the courthouse. It's greatly appreciated, and the construction is going pretty well, I think, and we have needed these investments in the courthouse for a long time. So we are grateful for your investment in the courthouse and our future. So thank you. Overall for us, it's a budget increase from 2023 of approximately $360,000. The majority of that request for the budget increase, about 2/3 of it, falls into two categories. One is a request to increase juror fees from $10 per day plus mileage to $20 per day plus mileage. That amounts to about $100,000 roughly in our budget request for the increase. A lot of the comments that I've been receiving most recently, especially in light of the inflationary issues we've all been dealing with, I'll see jurors in the courthouse, I'll see them on the street, just like citizens you all I'm sure see, out to dinner, things like that. And the comment they make to me often is, look, we know it's our civic duty to come answer the subpoena or the summons, come to court and perform our duty, civic duty. But gosh, could you at least pay us enough so we could pay for our lunch as we're here downtown? And so we've put forth this request to increase that amount to help compensate for some of the concerns that have been raised lately by jurors, saying it's one thing to sacrifice our time, et cetera, to come, but could we at least receive a little more to help us compensate for the day or days that we were actually there serving? And I just got to say, personally, I don't think it's an unreasonable request of our citizens to do that. From a data standpoint, Lee Dawn has some additional information, I believe, if you need more specifics. And she can correct me if I'm wrong, but generally we've looked at some other districts. Juror compensation runs from about $10 to $50 per day plus mileage. A lot of them are in the $10 to $20 a day range. So I don't believe this request would be out of the ordinary. We certainly wouldn't be at the high end. We wouldn't be at the low end either, kind of coming in somewhere in the middle. The second major component of our budget request would be about $155,000. That's for court-appointed attorney fees and the addition of a couple of positions for court-appointed attorneys. I'm sure you saw Mr. Kage's slide where he mentioned child in need of care cases, juvenile offender cases, et cetera. Those are on the increase for this year. So there's a little bit of pressure there to compensate the contract attorneys for the work that they do, but also look at having some attorneys come on board to help us with the caseload that's increasing. We also, out of those additional caseloads, then have more appeals where attorneys are required to represent indigent defendants on those appeals. And we also see more conflicts then where a lawyer cannot represent someone because they have a legal conflict with representation. Therefore, we have to find another court-appointed attorney to handle that case for them. The remainder of our budget increase request really is kind of a hodgepodge of many things, as I'm sure you've heard or discussed. Increased insurance premiums, some employee COLAs, interpreter fees, those continue to rise, I believe. Software renewals, transcript fees for a transcriptionist or a court reporter to produce a transcript for parties who need one in a case. And that generally constitutes the entire amount. But I wanted to focus today on those two large components of our request. I really feel like these are not wants, they are needs. We are not coming to you asking for an increase because it's willy-nilly requests of things we'd just love to have. The prior years where we have submitted flat budgets or close to flat budgets for your consideration and approval, I think we've kind of reached that time where we do need to make a significant increase request. So I thank you for that consideration and everything you do to support us and the citizens that we all serve. Those are my general comments about the budget and the requests that we've submitted, and I'd be happy to answer some questions about that. If you don't have questions for me or anything else about the court, I can turn it over to Lead On and she can address any more specific questions.
I don't know that I have anything specific right now.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just have a comment and something that Lee Don and I talked about these contract attorneys. In the past, it seems like we had left the amount they were paid at one amount for years and years, and then we would try to catch up. And what we talked about was that it makes sense to me that we give increases that are, you know, kind of comparable to what we're giving our employees as an increase, and do that year to year rather than waiting until we then have a huge increase that we need to make in order to keep and retain those qualified attorneys. So that was just something we talked about, and they did put it in their budget request.
I see that the 5% is only a portion, a very small portion of that increase. I mean, it's, you know, $700,000 increase, and that's for that plus 2 new attorneys, is that?
Right.
Okay.
Just one second. You'll also notice that line 50200 and 50210 have decreases that move down to that line.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying here.
Yeah,
I missed that,
they
but
did some
thanks.
shifting also.
Because the math wasn't,
It wasn't adding up.
Those are
I
some
was thinking,
expensive
still,
new
those are
attorneys.
really high-paid attorneys, is what I was thinking, and I remember you saying they're underpaid, so.
Yeah, and they are. Like Mr. Kage said, you know, we're having a difficult time as well.
Yeah.
People like to make jokes about lawyers, but we do. We have a shortage of lawyers in the state of Kansas and in Topeka as well. And so finding good lawyers and keeping those good lawyers to do this work, some of this work is very challenging and taxing, especially emotionally, when you talk about child in need of care and juvenile offender cases. So we need the help on that as well.
Hopefully our new law school will attract more people to Topeka.
Let's hope. Yes, I hope so. Do you have any other questions for me?
I did. On the on your capital improvement stuff, there was, a self-service kiosk. And I believe that came with a staff increase of one person to staff. Is that-
You're referring to a self-help center?
Yeah.
You wanna
Sorry,
address that
I'm trying to
tomorrow?
find the actual page that I,
Should be at the very end, I think.
okay,
Court Self-Help Center.
yes, that's the one. So, $125,000, I mean, when I read this, it seems like a really cool project that would help with the efficiency of the courts and really tie in well with our renovation project, but
Correct.
does it add staff, or would it just divert staff from other areas and potentially even decrease the need for staff in other places at some
The
point?
staffing, our proposed staffing for the self-help center would be someone from the existing district court clerk's office. So we have someone from the clerk's office who's familiar with the processing, familiar with all the case types. That person or persons would be assigned on a rotating basis to staff the self-help center. And basically, they would be helping self-represented litigants in filing proper paperwork and getting everything they need completed so that they can file their cases without the aid of an attorney.
And where exactly would you plan on putting this?
This was originally in the renovation project. It was the easternmost part of the IT space on the second floor.
Okay. Okay.
Where the server room is.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I had. Thanks.
Court furniture upgrade, at capital outlay for this year request? What court furniture are we looking to change?
The capital outlay for this year is furniture for the conference room in the new suite of offices in the basement, as well as,
Is this, I mean, the magistrate's chambers?
yes.
Okay.
So the renovation was, as Judge Everett said, greatly appreciated, very much needed with our two new judges, but the renovation didn't come with furniture. So we have a conference room that we haven't been able to, well, we can't use it yet anyway, but it's, needs to be furnished. The judges that have assumed those offices downstairs are using furniture that we've culled from other offices to get them by. And then we also had planned on starting the 2-year cyclical refresh of furniture replacement. We have two divisions specifically on the 4th floor that have furniture in their offices that, in my mind, I say, oh, that was 20 years ago. They were purchased in the 80s, so they're getting close to 40 to 45 years old instead of just 20. So part of that includes furniture for 2 divisions, plus some additional furniture for outfitting those 2 new spaces in the basement.
All right.
Well, I think anything you buy now is not gonna last 40 years.
Amen.
I mean, that's quality furniture. Yeah.
That is quality furniture, and it has held up well, but it's showing its age.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be pretty brief in going through our, the rest of our budget request. As Judge Everett's noted, for over 11 years, we maintained a flat budget at $2,390,000. In '22, there was about a $250,000, $300,000 increase, which primarily went to attorneys and other staff increases. And then that included the evergreen increase, the increase in '22. In '23, we maintained that budget, and then, as noted, we're requesting an increase of approximately 13.75% for '24. Specifically, that $363,000 increase includes compensation and benefits comparable to the 5% the county's providing to county employees of $41,723. The additional compensation for our contract attorneys, as Betty explained, we're trying to keep them in line with county movement so that we don't get behind like we did a few years ago. The 2 new contract attorney positions that were mentioned, plus, the 2 new contract attorney positions would equate to $100,800. The estimated jury increase from $10 a day to $20 a day would equate to approximately $100,000. The furniture refresh that we'll talk about a little bit, $10,000, and then the remaining balance of approximately $60,000 would equate to interpreter fees, transcript fees, software renewals and subscriptions, primarily for our IT services. One of the things I'd like to note is that we are pretty frugal with our budgets. Our furniture expenses, typically, if we have money to buy, we put those off until the end of the year so that we aren't shortchanging our budget for things we need. The largest portion of our budget is the portion we have no control over, which is attorney fees and jury expenses. We're bound to pay those, the county's bound to pay those, regardless of what our budget looks like. We do our best to keep those in line to the extent possible, and I think having these contract positions greatly helps in keeping our attorney fees down. But we still have those attorney fees that we can't cover by contract or are not covered by contract. Appeals, sexually violent predators, those multiple defendant cases that DA Kage talked about. We're finding more and more of those cases that come about. So this is a brief breakdown of the contract attorney positions. We do have 25 attorneys on contract, or 25 separate contracts. We do have some attorneys who carry multiple contracts, but there are 25 separate contracts, and those are misdemeanor. We have 3 misdemeanor contracts. We have a traffic and DUI contract. We have 3 contracts for child support contempt and 3 contracts for care and treatment. And then we have 15 contracts for juvenile offender, parents, attorneys, guardian ad litems, and child in need of care cases. Our Shawnee County employees, we have obviously included them in the 5% increase that all other county employees are receiving. We have 3 full-time county employees. Jared Hedges and Aaron Shire both work in our IT, or computer systems department. Carol Ruth Bonebreak is our staff attorney. And then under Carol Ruth, we have 7 intermittent law clerk positions. Right now, we have 2 law clerk positions filled, and we also have 3 unpaid extern positions that are working directly with 3 of our judges. We also have 1 intermittent interpreter position, Susana Valdivinos, who provides some of our Spanish language services to the court. As Judge Eberts noted, we're extremely grateful for the renovations to the court spaces. We're really looking forward to the use of our jury assembly room towards the end of next year, first part of 25. Right now, it's a fabulous space that's being used by other departments within the building while their own offices are being renovated. Right now, our court services office is housed in that space. Before long, Mike Kage and some of the DA's office staff will be using that space. And then the clerk of the district court office will be moving there when their turn comes around for renovations. We've also made arrangements to have the jury assembly room as well as the training center and the emergency management offices set aside for the period roughly November 23 to November 24, and those will serve as 2 makeshift courtrooms while our courtrooms are being renovated on the 3rd and 4th floors. The new suites for the magistrate judges are fabulous. The timing was perfect as far as the renovation of the courthouse, with the legislature providing us with 2 new positions. And we do have 1 judge that has moved in with the AA in that space and is using his courtroom now. We're hopeful within the next couple weeks we'll get the 2nd courtroom completed and have Judge Jones move down there as well. The fingerprint and offender registration space is on track to be completed with this renovation, and that will benefit both the courts as well as the sheriff's office, so that all the fingerprints will be taken, all the offender registration will be taken care of in one space. It's amazing how many people get lost between their order from the judge to get their fingerprints made and the sheriff's office. They magically never make it to the sheriff's office. So hopefully this will eliminate that process or problem. Some of our future goals with the court, the self-help center, access to justice is a huge issue within the state right now, and the self-help center, as we discussed, will provide a great deal of service to those who either cannot afford an attorney or simply choose to pursue their cases without the assistance of an attorney. One of the other items that was originally in the renovation project that was cut at the last minute was a judicial conference room. The court honestly only has one conference room in room 406. And with our 2 new judges and our administrative hearing officer, we barely fit in that conference room. So we had talked, and it was in the plans to have a large judicial conference room in the former HR space. So once everything's done, this is something we're looking at as a possibility for the future, so we can get all of our judges in one place comfortably. The attorney drop zone was another nice idea we had that simply didn't make it into the renovation process. It was more of a lack of space than anything else. So that's something we kind of have on our radar, not an urgent issue, but just something that would be nice for attorneys visiting the court, not to have to carry coats and bags and umbrellas around from division to division. So last year we talked about some of our changes to our jury management program, and we have been paying our jurors by debit card for probably close to a year now, and we've had some hiccups, but it saves the county a great deal of money. It takes a little bit longer in the check-in process, but we're working through some ways to make that go quicker. Our electronic questionnaires online are built into the program now, so it's much more seamless process than it was. We have the means. We haven't used it a great deal yet. We're still trying to figure out the best way to capture some of the contact information, but we have the means to contact our jurors by text or email to let them know of continuances or trials going off the calendar. Obviously, we still have Dana Chandler on the calendar for October of this year. That's scheduled for 4 weeks in Pottawatomie County. Judge Rios will be hearing that, and she and her staff will be in Pottawatomie County for the duration of that trial. We have a special project fund set aside to help with those expenses. When we get to the next slide and we talk about jury pay, Pottawatomie County is one of those courts that pays $20 the first day and then $50 for every additional day. So the jury fees alone for that case are going to be substantial. We're also looking at some options where jurors could self-check in using a scanner and a kiosk, basically. So we're looking at ways to make that check-in process go quicker and more efficient. As Judge Eberts indicated, currently we pay $10 a day for our jurors plus their round-trip mileage. None of us can remember when that came about. I know it's by statute, we have to pay a minimum of $10 a day. I think it's probably always been $10 a day. Our records go back to 1997 or 8 online, and we were paying $10 a day then. So we've been paying $10 a day for the duration, I believe. As noted, it's an estimated budget increase of $100,000. This slide gives you a little bit of an idea about what some of the courts in Kansas pay jurors. This was actually a survey done by court administrators in 2018. I've contacted these courts since March to get current numbers. The column on the left is those districts that pay $10 a day plus mileage. In the center column are 6 districts that have sort of a hybrid. They pay $10, or they pay something, $10 a day for the first day, and then a higher amount for day 2 and beyond. And then the third column is courts that pay higher than $10 a day for the duration of the trial. So as you can see, there's a wide variety of payments, and I think the $20 a day is pretty middle of the road and a reasonable request. I'm happy to answer any questions about that again as we go forward. Our court technology department is doing great. We've migrated to Office 365. Our email service is now run off of a state server, so that saved us the cost of replacing our email server. We have, as of April 3rd, converted to the Odyssey case management system, which is good news and bad news, depending on who you talk to. And as of June, our court services office has also migrated to a Tyler product, which is called Tyler Supervision, and they can manage all of their case contact information through that program. There are some upgrades to our data center, cabling, and generator request in the CIP section of our budget. Court services, we continue to have a very strong and successful drug treatment court. We try to keep between 30 and 35 clients in that department or in that program at any one time. As of January, we've started a veterans treatment court. We were able to secure funding through a federal BJA grant, which provides not only operating expenses, but also a full-time court services officer to supervise those clients. The nice thing about that position is that if we don't have enough veterans treatment court clients, that officer can have a basic caseload. So he helps out our regular caseload as well. And we did return last year to our field supervision team. The only change was we do those, our court services officers make those visits during the day now instead of at night due to primarily safety issues. So you have our capital improvement requests. We have 2 requests for '24. One was a data center upgrade, which would provide for increased service, increased capacity for our court servers. And the conference room and judicial furniture we talked briefly about, which would be for the basement level. 25, we have another project that was given a number last year, the court data cabling upgrade. When the county offices were all, the wiring was all upgraded, we did not upgrade the courts at that time. And so that's what this would do. It would bring the court cabling and networking up to the county standards. And we've been replacing that just as needed. So we're behind the 8 ball on that one just a little bit. Court PC refresh. There again, we are pretty judicious with our budget, and it's tough to get 165 computers rotated through on a regular basis. So this would refresh cyclically all of our PCs for both courtrooms, clerk's office, court services, and then administration. Also includes the self-help center. And then at 26, we've been in conversations with Mark Price about the generator for information systems. And I know that the generator that currently serves the county information systems is at capacity. And what he's proposing is that he buy a generator with enough additional capacity to include the courts. And if we can manage that with us paying part of it, or however that ends up working, this would fall off of the CIP requests. So very briefly, that was our budget in a nutshell. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or comments or concerns you have.
You almost seem giddy talking about the jury room.
We've never had a jury assembly room. It's exciting.
Is this going to require another person to operate?
No. My jury coordinator, who's staffed in room 406, she will work down there on jury check-in days, and then the rest of her time she'll be spending upstairs on the 4th floor. We also have a backup jury coordinator out of the clerk's office, and so that person will also assist and work in that office as needed.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
I have a quick question. I'm just curious, is there any chance that you'd be able to dual purpose that room as both a conference room and a jury coordination room?
The goal, yeah, possibly, yes. Our intent from the onset was that that room could be used as a public meeting space. It could be used for trainings, any number of meetings. It would be hard to schedule meetings in there, not knowing what the trial calendar was and what we would need as far as jury assemblies. A lot of times, our larger profile cases or higher level felony cases, we have judges that will have jurors report at maybe 2 or 3 times a day. So we might have jurors come in at 9, jurors come in at 11 and 2, so it would be hard to do, but certainly not out of the question.
Might note that we do have a training room just below here.
Yes.
That's always available for the courts, so.
And we appreciate that. We've taken you up on it a couple times,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, so if you need a large room for your judges, I know you'd have to walk across the street, but it's always available.
Absolutely, thank you.
I have a question. On your budget request, under furniture and fixtures, you have 15,000 that says beside it furniture
Oh.
vendor suggests 15,000 per judicial suite. Is that a duplication of what you're asking on the CIP?
No, the CIP is for the basement spaces and then the 2 really outdated court or chamber offices on the 4th floor. Our goal is to have a furniture refresh, and $10,000 of this our goal was to replace 2 divisions every year. So each division would theoretically have a furniture refresh every 9 to 10 years. So the remaining $5,000 in that furniture line item would simply be, the odd bookcase or something we need, but the $10,000 would be
It's refresh.
set aside as a refresh for, and our goal is 2 suites per year at $5,000 each.
And when she's referencing suites, it's also all the furniture for everybody in the courthouse. It's not just for judges. We're just using that as a representative example. We go through chairs fast, all the people that come through, so that's one example.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Judge, thank you very much. All right. Emergency management, Dusty.
I'm gonna take a restroom break.
Oh, yeah, why don't we take a 5-minute break here before we crank into this?
Can't be ready without Betty.
No, no.
Nothing here.
Without her.
It was a great article in the paper this weekend. I
You know-
watched the video. It was really cool.
I wasn't expecting that. We're republishing the book because they're doing this music with it and a little animation.
I watched that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Neat.
And anyway, but in republishing the book, I wanted to use a picture that the Cap Journal had. So I call down there and I get permission to use that picture, and they, well, what's it for? Well, what are you doing? What are you doing? And all of a sudden it turned into a story. So I was kind of hoping it would be maybe a month down the road when the books really start, it'll be published
Yeah.
off the presses by then, but that's fine. Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
They
Sometimes.
say in Hollywood, anyway. All right, we're back in session, or our hearing's back in session. We're ready for emergency management.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dusty Nichols, Emergency Management. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm sure you've seen the budget, and I know that the documents are where they need to be. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have heard that I need to get them somewhere. So basically, we're submitting a flat budget with just some minor increases, obviously to salaries, but that's taken care of elsewhere. But within our request, we have $2,500 increase in fuel, because that, of course, cost of fuel kind of goes up and down, and we never really know. And then $1,500 for tires, specifically for our CERT trailer. Community Emergency Response Team, which is the CERT volunteer group that we train, and that trailer houses their equipment. And it's kind of been out of commission for the past few years, as you know. We've had a lot of requests to get CERT back up and running, and Jake has taken the lead on that. So we really need to get that trailer up and running so we can do that training and get some people trained. Other than that, that's really the only thing we have on our request for the new budget year. For budget,
Okay, any questions on the budget? No. All right, can we talk a little about the capital improvement plan?
Sure. Capital improvements, Scott might have to jump in here a little bit. I got my notes are all over the place. But capital improvement, basically over the next couple of years, we're looking at replacing a vehicle per year. Our vehicles are getting old, but what we did do is when we purchased the light bars and so forth, we got those so we can move those from vehicle to vehicle, so that reduces the cost. But we're looking at one vehicle per year for 24, 25, and 26. So coming up, you'll see that request for capital improvement. EOC renovations, of course, our bathrooms are semi underway. We got the plans out, we're doing the bids. I will be right up front and say that's coming back a little bit more than we anticipated. And we based that original cost estimate from a previous employee that may not have had everything that we needed in that bid because of the age of the facility. So we might have some answers to that. We got to do some talking with Betty and company, but I think our capital outlay is looking at $100K for the bathrooms over 2024, $55,000 for our copy room and storage in 2025. That's the next room downstairs that's still stuck in the 50s, so we like to upgrade that. And that can be adjusted as well. We're just trying to find a baseline to match everything else we got downstairs. And then $51,000 for furniture in 2026 when we start upgrading that kind of stuff. I'm sorry? Equipment and furniture. Thank you, Scott. And then our ARPA funds, that's what the bathrooms were originally out of. So I'm going to let Scott talk a little bit specific on that since he's the project manager for those bathrooms.
Good morning, Scott Garcia, Emergency Management. We were, I want to say, awarded 50 grand for ARPA funds to go towards the bathroom renovations because that's what, like he said, the previous maintenance employee said that should cover it all. We put it out for bid. We got our specs and stuff from Falk Architect done, put it out for bid, and we only received one bid. And that one bid was way more than we had anticipated. So if you use what we have left from the ARPA funds with, if we were awarded the 2024 asking, it would cover both bathrooms. If we do one at a time, we got one price, but if we combine them both, we save $5,000. They'll give us a $5,000 break. That's an option. I was talking with Jennifer a little bit earlier. Another option is we could reject the one bid, open it back up and hope we get some smaller ones. But if that's an indication of what to expect for bids, what we have set aside with the ARPA funds isn't going to cover it. So we would like to request some CIP money to help go towards what we've been awarded ARPA funds to get these bathrooms done.
Then there's a couple other requests through Nelson, but it's a co-request through dispatch. If you want him to come up and talk about that, that's so technical. I'd rather him discuss that with you versus me try to confuse it even more. So,
Morning, Commissioners. Nelson Castile Ambulance Compliance. Through the cooperation with AMR and the sheriff, we've kind of done a gap assessment of the communications center. We have some equipment, both furniture that is very non-ergonomic. It's 15 years old. It's breaking. Matter of fact, I believe they've got several consoles in there today that they're having to basically try to put back together. They get a lot of usage. As part of our contract with AMR, we originally required them to have 2 people in the center. We now require them to have 3 people in the center. With the amount of space in there, we are looking at some projects to go in with the Sheriff's Office Communications Division to renovate that area, provide more spaces. I can't stress enough how good it is to have the AMR dispatchers in that same room. The communications between them, how calls are handled, the interoperability has just been fantastic. And we added the 3rd dispatcher just recently, and we've had some very good positive impacts and returns from that. So it is a little high, but most of the furniture in there was probably end of life 5 to 6 years ago, and we're in year 15 of it. So we want to work when the Sheriff's Office is able to renovate to also increase to at least 4 consoles for AMR so that they have an area to train with. Right now they have 3, which means they're not able to be separate when they train unless they train on the night shift. The other requests for the upcoming years have to deal with a backup center, also some of the what's called AES encryption, which I could spend an hour just explaining how that works, so I won't. And some of the other off of that is also sustainment of the radio system that we need to have in place so that AMR can fulfill their contract with us. All of these are being done in cooperation with the 911 Center so that we can all move forward together and have a part of it. Any questions you might have? Questions?
I think there might be 3 that you didn't touch base on, but I was trying to keep up. But how about the tactical command vehicle?
Oh, the tactical command vehicle, that is actually part of the EOC request. They're just more as technology evolves, we'll be replacing some of the consolettes and some of the other radios on that vehicle. I believe that's for 24 and 25.
And the prime site virtualization?
The prime site virtualization, that is the big one that the Sheriff's Office talked about. It kind of comes back to what they were talking about with the fiber and the microwave. This system was put in, I believe, in 13 or 14 is when we finally got when we finally signed off on it. And over the 10-year period, the technology has evolved. There's more technology. Because it's used 24/7, 365, things wear out. So part of that virtualization is going to be we're coming up on that time when we need to be looking at doing a lot of replacements. This puts it on your radar to know that that's going to be coming. That is, I believe, 5 years out, so that price will most likely go up. I've never seen the price of technology come down. So.
And then the last one was the automatic paging for EMS?
The automatic paging for EMS, that is to basically take what is put into the computer-aided dispatching computer, and word for word, it would page out the fire and AMR or anybody else that needed paged without intervention from a dispatcher. A dispatcher would only have to hit an enter button in the perfect scenario. They would not have to get on there and talk. They could be doing other duties, and it would come across kind of, I can't remember the name of the gal that's on your phone that talks, but
Surrey.
who?
Surrey.
Siri? Okay. It comes across that way, and it provides that page-out information to the departments. That would also work in with those departments that are not, that have crew force, and part of that information, should they need to have a repage or anything like that, there's a lot of automatic functions there that frees up the time on the dispatch floor so they can be answering 911 calls and handle high-priority traffic of any nature.
Nelson, on the encryption portion, do we not have encrypted channels now?
Yes, we do. Without going too far in the weeds, the encryption that we use now is proprietary to Motorola. The standard that people need to be at for a lot of the federal regulations and statutes, as well as state regulations and statutes, is called AES. And that is a higher level of encryption. And so what would happen is, as the state and other counties go to that, we're going to want to go to that, or we won't be able to talk encryption to encryption. They won't be able to talk to us that way. We would still be able to talk in the clear. But if we have a bunch of folks out there that have special channels that nobody else has, then in an emergency, the interoperability goes away. So part of the thing that we do want to do, especially on the ambulance side, is change the encryption so that the patient reporting going into the hospital, make that encrypted so that they're not hearing all those intimate details that sometimes make it out into the radio land and Facebook and on the Twit thing and all those things like that.
So if the contract that we have with Motorola, I mean, we give Motorola a lot of money for their radios, and if the technology's changed, shouldn't they just change their encryption to meet those standards? Without us
I know
spending $1
nothing
million?
about the Motorola contract, but Director Rabb and I could come back and talk to you about that, or work with the sheriff to let you know. I have not read the Motorola contract, since that's kind of outside my purview.
Okay. The other thing is on the tactical command vehicle. Isn't that vehicle, I mean, I know we got a steal of a deal, but it seems like it's getting more expensive every year. Isn't that what is supposed to translate with other counties and other agencies?
It does.
Okay.
And it has the current Motorola encryption on it. Part of that would be, we'd be putting radios in there that would do the new encryption. I'll call it new, even though it's not. It would be the new encryption. But if we're on one and somebody's on the other, but you are correct, that does use it to bridge. We've deployed a couple of times and found that there's some additional equipment we would like on there. Stampede last year was a perfect time for us to come up with a list of those things. So, but like you said, it was a steal, but technology appears to be evolving faster than our purses are. So.
One more thing, also on the restroom, and really not for you so much as it is for Dusty, but the restrooms, I mean, if we only got one bid, I think it's probably best that we go out and try and seek more bids, I think.
I can't disagree with it. Of course, we know what when we do that, what could happen, so I agree with you.
Betty?
I was just gonna ask on this tactical command vehicle, how many times did you get able to use it?
How many times have we used it? Oh, I know we used it for all the events, Stampede and such, but you've done it on fires.
It was more than a dozen this year.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number. It gets used.
Any other questions? Dustin, Nelson, thanks.
It's all right. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right, our last budget hearing presentation is Safe Streets. So.
Good morning. I'm Mandy Chikansky, the Executive Director at Prevention and Resiliency Services, and I'm here to speak today about Safe Streets, which is a program that's overseen by our agency. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. County funding helps to fund neighborhoods, individuals, and businesses throughout Shawnee County. Our services through Safe Streets include neighborhood watch support, quarterly communication, education events, presentations on a wide range of topics geared towards the health and well-being of Shawnee County residents, and national night out coordination. As neighborhoods have changed, we've tried to morph with them and offer them solutions for how they can adapt to this changing world. A lot of people communicate now through social media channels and don't necessarily want to pull the neighborhoods together. So we have really worked with neighborhoods that are more tech savvy to implement GroupMe and social media next door, using those tools. But we also are going out to the neighborhoods that are needing us and asking us to come out and building out programs that are specifically tied to their needs. We work with them to address the specific challenges and celebrate their successes. We have a bank of presentations prepared for neighborhoods on several topics, from initiating a neighborhood watch to holiday safety to human trafficking to talking to your children about drugs and alcohol. And we continue to build that catalog each year. We have a licensed master's addictions counselor on our staff who has a lot of experience and does a lot of training as well from that vantage point. We have moved from monthly Safe Street meetings to quarterly education events focused on topics that are impacting our community. This was done to expand our reach and engage different groups in the community. The events are held at the Sunflower Foundation, and they have a diverse audience that allows for great networking after the event takes place. Topics that we've covered have included opioids, youth vaping, the DEA addressing fentanyl, human trafficking, and soon on August 1st, we'll be talking about stigma and how it impacts all of our lives. We work to bring high-quality speakers to our community engagement events who are truly the experts on the topics presented for the best impact. We're happy to present programming to any agencies, school, community group, church that contacts us. Our agency's greatest focus is on preventing substance misuse or abuse, which is often related to the topics we present on. However, through great collaboration with other community partners, often law enforcement, we are able to address many of the safety concerns that neighborhoods identify needing assistance with. We also utilize funding to assist with coordination of the National Night Out events across the county. This year, we currently have 34 neighborhoods signed up for the day of events on August 5th. Through work with our community partners and feedback from various stakeholders, we will likely be moving forward next year with the community-wide event, probably on National Night Out. We appreciate the continued support of the council here, the opportunity to work with outstanding partners such as the Shawnee County Health Agency, the Shawnee County Sheriff's Department, and most recently Shawnee County Parks and Rec as we launch a program this month at the Oakland Community Center. Every county agency we've interacted with has been phenomenal in the support they provided. PARS and myself specifically. A couple of the ladies in this room have helped me with some things that I needed help with, so I appreciate that. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about our programming, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
You mentioned a program at the Oakland Community Center. Would you be willing to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I'm probably going to call my colleague up here, Haley Gill. She's the one that has facilitated that, and so she can talk more specifically to it. I knew that was going to be a question, so that's why I brought her.
Yes, good morning. So the program is connecting youth with learning about substances as well as doing art. So we have a woman from Oakland, the Oakland community, that was once an art teacher, and she's partnering with us. And so it's going to look like we give a short presentation on, the first one is going to be about vaping and the risks and harms of vaping. And then the students are going to have a little short presentation on creating art. And then then they're going to be asked to create a piece about an anti-vaping campaign through art. And so and it's free, so they can and it's ages 12 and up, so it's for older kids that could be facing, substances in school. And so just getting them to learn about substances as well as learning about some art and partaking in doing art in a safe environment. The county, or Parks and Rec, has also asked us to do this fall at Crestview and at Hillcrest. So we're hoping that it takes off and we can do it from there, so.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, well, Mandy and Haley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, I think that concludes our budget hearing for today. 9 o'clock?
Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock.
All right.
No sleeping in, guys.